Nick, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your career in games, and what is your favorite game that you're playing now?
So truth be told, the game I'm playing now is a backgammon game because I played backgammon here in Tel Aviv the other night and I didn't remember how to set up the board, so I had to install that. Okay. Career in games. So I actually started in nonprofit work, which brought me to San Francisco, Silicon Valley. Needed to take a job that made money, so I joined an incubator that actually became very successful in games. It was the incubator behind both CrowdStar and OpenFaint, both big gaming companies. After that, I went to OfferPal, which is now called Tapjoy, rebranded as one of the companies that actually acquired. I was there for a year, a little more than a year. And then in 2010, I consulted with gaming companies for about 10 months. And then 5.5 years ago, so the beginning of 2011, I started Super Lucky Casino, which is the current company. We were originally called 12 Gigs, which was just a placeholder, kind of under the radar. We still like to be quiet, but I guess we're no longer under the radar. I guess our largest titles would be Hot Vegas Casino and Double Up. Predominantly slots, though we do have bingo, video poker, blackjack, and solitaire games.
Great.
Yes.
I'm Yonatan. I'm running the Israeli subsidiary of PlayStudios. Previously, I started a startup with a couple of friends. Some of them are here. And we did together with PlayStudio a game called Pop Slots, which is essentially a virtual casino. Virtual casino with in the social casino industry. Recently we launched it. The game is called Pop Slot, and it's doing remarkably well. Encourage everyone to use it. The game that I'm playing right now is called Score Hero. Amazing game by you, Creative. And if you have a lot of spare time, like I do apparently, then you'll be playing it a lot. So try it.
Very good. And last but not least, Ben Horesh.
Hello. Good. So I'll do a quick reverse order. The game that I'm playing at the moment is a game called Monument. It's not the most intricate game. It's more, I enjoy it because it's a very beautiful vector-based game of puzzles with a twist, and it really is a twist of the puzzle. In terms of my involvement in gaming, I began about 13 years ago in web games, iGaming on the casino side of things, with a company called Microgaming. And I was there for about 7 years, initially starting as a designer in the usability engineering team and moving into a little bit of product, a little bit of operational management, a little bit of project management. I moved to Israel and worked at several startups. One of them grew a little bit bigger than startup, which was Playtika, where I held a position as VP product. And right now, I'm actually outside of gaming and in the ad tech industry, working in an American company called AppThis as their managing director. And we've just opened up offices in Tel Aviv, actually right over here on Rothschild. So full spectrum from games, product, a little bit of business development, and now user acquisition. Thanks.
Fantastic. So I'm actually glad that this panel is following the one that we just heard from Boaz. And he had mentioned something about loyalty programs. And I think the big misconception is that loyalty programs are VIP, and that's certainly not the case. VIP is this extra niche area. And so what are we doing in the internet age to kind of get those same touch points, and how do we make those experiences really personal and things that people can't get through their other gaming products? I think that's the competitive edge. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I will kind of share amongst the panelists and get everybody's kind of different experience with how they're working with it. So I am going to start with Nick to tell me about a VIP experience that you've had with your customers, whether it was your first one and what you do, or what are you doing in trying to create a unique program?
I'm trying to think of a VIP experience that wouldn't make us sound egregious. A lot of the time, actually, that's a good way to start. A lot of time when you see a player spending thousands upon thousands of dollars in your game in a short period of time, it is a little bit alarming. You, I think, automatically feel like you might be doing something wrong. And we don't want to. Like, none of us want to be regulated. None of us want to create addictive behaviors or harm anybody. But when you start talking to your users, one thing that I've really, really noted is that most of the people who spend a lot of money are keenly aware that they're spending and that they're losing. They know before they start that they're probably going to lose. They're aware of the math involved in slots and other casino games, and they still choose to. Anecdotally speaking, we've had a number of players that compare their real money casino experience to their social casino experience and basically say, I used to go to the brick and mortar casino 2 times a month and I would spend $10,000 each month. Now I get together with my friends in my living room, drink wine, we play on our iPads, and we only lose $1,000 each month. In either case, it's large numbers, but people do seem to get very, very similar experiences, especially when they do it in their living rooms with their friends, and end up spending less money. But anyway, getting to the VIP side of it, I think that is kind of the key. Reach out, talk to them. We are the kind of company that tries to automate everything. We are a technology company, but there are some things that really can't be feasibly automated. All these players want different things. Many of them just want to be left alone. They know that they're gonna spend money and that they can't get it out of the game, but they don't want you contacting them. They don't want you bugging them. Some people really like it when you reach out to them and offer them free coins or free loyalty goods, things like that. So that's kind of the key: is reach out, talk to your VIPs, and figure out what they really are looking for, what they want.
Okay. So Ben, when you were at Playtika and at that time kind of starting with really differentiating these people, what were you finding as far as the experiences that you could give, and kind of what data were you using to kind of figure out what you should be doing and how much is the appropriate amount?
Well, I think that if you take a look at the psychology of the VIP players, in fact, backtracking for a second, not even the psychology of the VIPs, just players in a social realm in general. Players are primarily looking for a sense of escapism, a disconnect from the everyday, day-to-day life, so to speak. So when we created VIP programs, and it's not just in Playtika, it's in general, both across social and across traditional gaming platforms, it's providing a value add or an extra additional layer above the base game itself that will give users a reason to come back, to re-engage with the actual game, whether it's a casino, whether it's a bingo, slots, whatever it happens to be. It's giving that little extra value add. And I think one of the easiest ways that you can get into understanding how to build the value add or what it is to be involved in the numbers, is to actually look and see what are the player behaviors, what is the propensity to spend, the amount of spending, the frequency. When you dig into these sort of data points, you get a better understanding of what will drive players to continue playing inside the game. And I think that's what it's all about.
So do you think you can actually build whales then, if you're using those numbers right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Yonatan, I understand the PlayStudios model is a little bit different than the B2C, just social operator. Tell us about what you learned with those customers who are very connected to brick and mortar and the level of expectation they have because of that.
Right. So you were, I'm assuming, referring to PlayStudios Rewards program. So not to refute what was been said earlier about the connection between loyalty points and how is it different from VIP, it could become a sort of a VIP if there are things in that program that aren't achievable for players that are not in that level. And the rewards program, and to those of you that are not familiar with that, it's a system that was developed by PlayStudios really early on that allows players to enjoy real-world benefits by being loyal to the game. Now, it's not gambling by any means. You don't get it by being lucky. And it's guaranteed for you as long as you stay loyal to us and as long as you play our games and hopefully have fun. So the kind of rewards that you can get by playing that could be distinctive. If you could run if you could have a dinner on the Bellagio porch and choose the song for the fountains when they go live, then that's sort of a status for those that want it. And I perfectly agree that some don't. There's a personal touch there. Another thing that I'll say that is I'll try not to repeat what's being said here, obviously. Some of the VIP players or the whales, and that terms even don't always overlap, because some of the whales don't want to participate in such a program. And in that regard, I don't know if to consider them as, they also want different economy. Just very, very different economy than. So the economy that we design for our players are usually not that appreciative of players that have propensity to spend in a tenure that is tenfold of what or 100-fold of what we expect from normal players. And some of them just want something that is a lot more rapid, a lot more harsh, I would say. And
higher volatility?
Higher volatility, way higher, like a different progression, different faucet math, and it's and if you give them that to them, they lend themselves to the game in a way that is much more effective.
Christina, do you mind if I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so I had a question. No, it's so Yonatan, you spoke about you spoke about introducing certain concept from a land-based environment, certain kind of tangible experiences. Mm-hmm. And the reward program that you've built, it's not a program which was built yesterday.
Right. Right. It was built by PlayStudios before we joined them, but
correct.
Go ahead.
What I've seen in both the traditional gaming as well as the social is that there is this element of bringing the tangible or real life into the environment, into the situation. You know, you get kind of parties on cruise ships and all kinds of special things like that. What did PlayStudios do in terms of bringing things to a tangible, real-life scenario?
So I hope that I understand the question. You mean in what from the way they treat VIP players in the real? Okay, so
exactly.
That we actually do that a lot. So both our founder and other people that joined are from the casino industry, and they have industry knowledge of how to treat VIP, and we have a hosting team. Not that small, even 6 or 7 people that are constantly hosting players that have that kind of status, contacting them in the most intimate ways. And imagine each and every one of you, and giving them a treatment. You know, if you were a casino VIP, you would expect to have a nice room with a champagne waiting for you, and then the best treatment that you can get. And those players are in large part, they're accessible. They want to be contacted. They want to have that special relationship with the operator. They even, last company meeting in the US, one of our top spenders joined the meeting. It was the beginning of the meeting. It was everybody knows him already, and he was there. We flew him to San Francisco, came in, say hello to everyone, thanked them for building the app. This is the kind of person. Because if you look at, this is not new. We know the Gini coefficient of our economy. It's closer to 1 than to anything. Basically, most of the money that we get are from very few players.
Okay, so what that sounded like was a whale experience that you've had. other than that, in creating these programs and carving out the niche, it sounds like everybody agrees that there's some benefits to a tiered reward system. And if you're using a tiered reward system, are you setting player expectations? Are you, as the operator, making sure that they can see the points to where they grow? Not specific points, but could be points. The levels to which they can grow and to attain those levels and to continue to drive that revenue. Nick?
We've actually tested both ways, where one, it's black box blind to the user when they reach the next level in the next tier. And then we've tested it where the next one for them to reach was very clearly portrayed to them. We haven't seen much of a difference actually in behavior. So we just went with the one that felt more comfortable to us, and that was letting the user know what they needed to do next and what that would bring them. I guess we only measured it for a short period of time, maybe a couple weeks if I remember. So maybe if we had measured it over a longer period of time, the curve would have looked different to the one that we're used to now. But the bottom line is, in the first couple of weeks of trying those two different options, the user behaviors seemed pretty similar.
Do you think that there's a responsibility to set those expectations to drive player behaviors?
I think that's why we chose the one we did.
Okay.
A responsibility is probably a little too harsh of a term. Like, there's nothing that they lose by not knowing. But if you're misleading a customer to think that there are VIP levels or tiers when there aren't, then that's obviously shirking responsibility. And we weren't doing that. We just weren't making it abundantly clear what the next tier was. But yeah, it feels a little better to let them know what's next.
Okay. Yonatan, dealing with customers that are so familiar with the land-based rewards program and probably being involved in many land-based reward programs, how do you get them to kind of behave or play in a certain way that's most beneficial to the social experience?
Wow, you surprised me with that one. I'm not sure that I have that I know what is the effect of them being so used to the rewards and driving them to play in a certain manner. Never gave it a thought.
Okay. So, Ben, when you were starting the programs at Playtika, what are some of the communications methods that they maybe started with, and what do you think that we should be doing, and how should we be communicating?
So, the actual VIP programs, when it was first introduced, it was introduced as quite a big project, and I think the reason that it was done in such a way is because it spanned across several different games or several different brands, not just one. So when you're doing something like that, it's pretty important to make sure that it's very well synchronized between the different labels or the different entities that are involved. Now, this is definitely not a one-man band, so I just want to put it out there. This was not done by me. It was done by a massive team of a lot of different individuals across several months. And the way that it was communicated is in a couple of different channels.
Just pull the microphone up because the
Hello.
video won't get it. Thanks.
Okay. So the way that it was done was across several different channels. One is within the application itself, where there is dedicated real estate within the application that explains exactly what the loyalty system is. And it's important because there's a constant and very uniform area within each game that replicates the loyalty program, exactly where it's located. The second thing is there's an FAQ inside it. The FAQ spans quite a few pretty important questions. And the actual layout of the VIP program itself is pretty easy to understand. It's not congested. The third communication is within the actual purchases or engagements that a user makes. So every time myself as a user, every time I level up, or every time I get a free daily bonus, or every time I make a purchase, the message of the VIP program is reinforced. It's mentioned again. It reminds me every time that I do something that I'm getting a little extra credit on the side for the actions that I'm taking. And it's kind of a little feel-good factor that I'm constantly progressing within the growth path of the VIP plan. And the fourth specifically refers to the whales or the really big spenders, the big ticket players within the environment, within the game. And these are the guys or the women that actually get VIP live support. So there's a lot of different communication channels.
Can I ask, I want to ask you a question about that. So we know that in a lot of environments where there is progression, like learning, a lot of environments, we use gamified experience to make that progression more fun to the student, to the pair, and we are inside a game, right? We are in a gamified environment, and it feels like all of us choose to do a very formal, forms-based VIP program where we see and one could almost think that we will be the guys that will use, I don't know, to throw a bad idea into the air, a Candy Crush map, where you start and you level up, and for every instead of incrementing, in order to increment your status, you'll have a mini game, and that's where it happens. So after a purchase, something happens, and you level up through game mechanics that we all know so well. I mean, if I told you I have a great idea for progress and quest, and I'll show you a form and I'll show you where you're at you'll tell me that's not the way to do a quest with progress. So I'm thinking if it was like one guy did it one way, or the airlines probably did it one way, and we all copied that, or is it there's a reason why it's that way? So players look for that formality, for that forms to be. It's like So just a thought. I never answered it for myself, so I just followed the trend. Still,
it's good thought, and we're just here to kind of keep thinking about things. Do you have a response?
Always.
Oh, okay.
So. I'm just going to do a very quick sense check and make sure that I understood the question. The question, in short, is there a reason that it's always linear and structured as opposed to injecting some sort of gamification?
And not another mini game that you progress, like a progress mini game, a long quest to be a VIP in our game, which gives you benefits and something that is maybe more appealing to our players.
I think the logic is fairly simple, and I'm speaking from my own mind. It isn't a subject which came up before. So my thoughts are as follows. There are so many different areas within a game that gamification can be introduced. Okay, areas that are specifically relevant. For example, after I make a purchase, I'm enticed to make a purchase with the allure of a game afterwards. Okay, when it comes to a loyalty program that deals with points, and the points are earned because I'm either working really hard within the game to progress within the game, or I'm spending a lot of money. And because of the money that I'm spending, whether it's in a game or whether it's on an airline, and I'm buying lots and lots of tickets to fly around the world, I'm doing something pretty serious, and I'm expecting to get something pretty serious back. So what I would imagine is that it's not really the real estate that we would insert all kinds of instruments like gamification. We may insert it afterwards, for example, after I've tiered up or after I've done something. But the actual enticing to progress within the path of a VIP program wouldn't be the area that I would put gamification, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I don't know what approach is better. I know we're all taking the second.
It's not to say that it's wrong or that this is the only way of doing it.
I agree.
Let's find out next year. Come back and tell us. So switching the subject a little bit and going back to what you were talking about, Nick, with player expectations and us not wanting to get into regulated situations. What is the operator's responsibility with making sure that these players are not overextending and essentially hurting your own business by having players that burn out? Is that a responsibility of a VIP team, especially because you want to protect that very small percentage of your highest payers?
I think the responsibility actually starts with the tech team, and that's automated ways of recognizing some behaviors that may, not necessarily will be, but may be red flags. And then after that, it's the VIP team, the customer support team, to be reaching out to these people and figuring out where they are. Are they getting the experience they want? Are they aware of how things work? I think we all have to build very simple, clear games, so that's obvious. But you can't take that as an assumption. But yeah, it's about the frequent communication with those users. It might seem like a good idea to take as much money as you can get, but that's, I think, very nearsighted thinking. We're all trying to build real sustainable businesses here. So it does start with the technology, being able to notice these things, and then really skilled, qualified, well-trained people beginning dialogues with them. And usually, like, we have a ticket system, open and closed, and we have so many tickets that are just perpetually open because it is clearly a very ongoing dialogue with some of our most valuable players and our team. We have never had people actually come to company meetings, but we do have open dialogue with a lot of our users.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
Yeah. So, yes, I agree that dialogue needs to take place. Are you saying that with your system that there's a comfort with the customer coming to the VIP specialist, or is there a constant outgoing communication? And that's everyone.
I mean, I kind of said in the intro that some people really don't want to be bothered. So you have to learn that and leave them alone. But they need to, at that point, feel very comfortable to come back if they want to. Some people do require some clear outreach. And a lot of people, before we could ever reach out to them, they've already reached out to us. So it really is, it depends on the person. I don't think there's a rule of thumb. Obviously, within each kind of vertical, there are some best practices to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so obviously it's a constant relationship. There's a hosting team. I'll tell you one thing that we're going to try. I don't have an answer yet. I'll tell you in a year. So POP is a virtual casino, which means that people are live inside the environment. Our environment look and feel like the real environments, the real MGM, Excalibur, Mirage, whatever. And we have a very interesting opportunity to communicate with our players when they are in the game, during their play, in a way that is, I'd say, natural. We toyed with that, not in a way that is super structured. And that for us would be a leapfrog. If we can get those players the attention they get inside a real casino, inside our virtual casino. So we'll see.
Interesting. So these are pretty mature games and programs at this point. I think that Social Casino did take a page out of Vegas and know that this was something that was really needed. So it's a very important question, and I think that all loyalty programs look at, kind of the shelf life of benefit, right? Is there a time where you either reset a player's status or they have to use it in a certain amount of time? And what do you think about that? Do you think it's, to be rolled over, or should you have to attain that level all the time? Like with some of the places that I shop, they make me shop that much at least every year for me to get that, platinum card. Whoever.
I mean, that's a tough question. So I actually want to take a little bit of a cowardly approach and wait for the floor to answer a little bit before I tackle it.
I'll get started. I think in a lot of cases, when it's point-based, there are accounting reasons that points have to expire, sheet laws and things like that. Some of them you can get around it by making it very clear in the terms and conditions that we can shut off the game at any time and the points go away at that point. This all has to do with recognition of revenue. Which the users don't care about. And I don't think really anyone here is all that interested in finance law. But it probably does come with that to a certain extent, that your loyalty programs are resetting at the end of every year. Because we're not overly concerned about that, we don't reset anybody. I'm trying to think of it like right now as I answer. What would be the benefit? That would be guaranteeing some spend again the next year, the next month, whatever it would be. My take on that is if you are offering the person the experience that they want, and you continue to, they will continue to spend money in your game. So I'd rather not force them into something by resetting them. I would rather work hard to keep them happy with more and more new content and new features and things like that.
So for the first of all, because of the way our system works, where it comes to the rewards, yes, there are regulations on one hand and expiration on the other hand, and it's just, you know, it's part of the rules because those are real tangible assets. Indeed, it's a very tough question because you want to put pressure on the user to, and let's again take the airlines, right? If I don't fly enough in a certain year, I'll lose the status. It's not just about once I got a status, I maintain that. Airlines have a very clear way of why they're doing it. I have to fly every year. I just need to choose an airline. In the games, it doesn't really work that way. So if I have a good game, people should play it. If they don't play it, do I want to push that button of you must play or you'll use? Yes, sometimes. No, sometimes. It's difficult. It's getting even more difficult when you're thinking of how the tier works. So if I started gaining progress towards a tier, and that's where I think that's a good mechanic, I think. That progress shouldn't stay forever. So you should press your player to make the progress within a certain time, because that's a good motivation. It's not, you're not losing a status that you didn't have, but you're not gaining another status unless you up in your rate, so that's the middle ground that I would choose.
Absolutely. I mean, there's exclusivity in being a VIP. That is what these players are drawing into to begin with. They want to have an extra experience that somebody else can't get. And if you need to attain that certain level to get that certain experience, shouldn't you always have to do the same to get that level of exclusivity? When I was in casino, I was dealing with, my magic number is 500. I believe anything more is impossible to keep personal relationships with. 500 people. So when I met somebody that was going to knock off number 500, what happens there? You know, where do they go? Do I alienate them forever? Or is there a different reward system that they can fall into? But essentially, they cannot be in the list of 500 because they are not doing what the best 500 players are doing. Mm-hmm. Do you have thoughts on it now?
I agree with that approach, and I think that a little bit of a harder stance is sometimes necessary in a gaming environment where we regulate the economies so tightly with such a lot of scrutiny. So we really take a look at a game economy under a microscope on a daily basis. And when you start to take a look at the revenue or the run rate which is generated from, let's say, whales, some of the bigger players. If we've got whales that are bringing in a certain amount of revenue every day, and you see that they slowly stop eating, their propensity to consume slowly kind of weans away, then not having a structure that will push them to continue their activity would be detrimental to the game and to the company itself. So if I'm a whale and I start to get lazy, because I know that I've already reached diamond status, and diamond status is the top, it's about as far as I can go. I've got that platinum card. No one's going to take it away from me. If I don't have that constant little concern or worry on my shoulder that I have to keep maintaining what I'm doing, well, then we lose out. So I think that a little bit of rigidity, a little bit of a firmer enforcement to renew once a year will only extend the longevity or the current player cycles or the player behaviors that we've seen from these bigger players, or even the smaller ones that are rising up in the ranks of these systems. I think it's essential. I don't even think it's a question mark.
Okay. So I know that we are in the social casino track, but as the Casual Games Association is presenting this, what do we think that other genres of games can learn from these social casino programs that have done really well as far as loyalty programs, as far as identifying VIPs or whales? Is it transferable? Where would they maybe have struggles otherwise? Nick?
I've been in casino for 5.5 years, so that's a little difficult to answer. Though I do remember before I got into casino, knowing a little bit about slots and how they worked, and actually playing Farmville, and getting into that click trance, and realizing that there was a return to player, there was a very baked-in loss, that I was basically just playing a slots game with a much more complex UI on top of it. So I think the mechanics are there for casual games to derive some analogs from what we're doing in casino. I guess what's difficult for some of the casual games is the sync isn't as fast as it can be in slots. In some of our games, you can bet your entire wallet in one tap. You can win back triple that, or 10 times that. You can win back a portion of that, but it moves very, very quickly. Regardless, I think what the social casino portion of the games at large industry has done really well is the analytics, the return on ad spend, building out ROI curves, and then from there actual LTV curves. And I think a lot of these companies that rely heavily on free users, organic users, cross-promotion traffic, they haven't had to. But I do think that you can only build a game to a certain size unless you start spending a lot on UA. And in order to support UA, you need games that return quickly. So that would probably be one of the first things that I would, if I had to build a casual game right now, I would look at ways to sync currency more quickly in order to support UA spend in the future.
I'm jumping in for a second. Okay. I'm gonna jump in a level deeper in terms of looking at it from the glasses of we're all building a casual game. Okay. We're all in a gaming studio. We put a decade of building casino games aside, which I think all of us have. And we take a look at it from what are the different instruments that would essentially stimulate a casual game player to be part of a VIP program. So if we backtrack a second and we see if there's a match between the loyalty programs that casino applications have built to a direct fit with casual games. So the instruments that these loyalty programs leverage are things like a daily bonus, things like the coin store. When I buy coins, coin packs, do I get points for buying coins? Do I get points for returning to the game, second day retention, seventh day retention, every time that I come back, every time that I engage, every time that I make a purchase, whether it's a micro purchase or whether it's a big coin store purchase, every time that I level up, whether it's a casino game or a casual games game in general. I think that there are a lot of different endpoints or hooks within casual games that have absolutely no connection to the casino games. They happen to exist by pure virtue of the fact that they're part of the gaming realm. Level up, daily bonus, free coins, free gifts, whether it's free spins on a slot machine or whether it's 3 extra free lives in a puzzle game. So if I'm looking at the correlation between some of these VIP programs in casino and their direct fit on casual games that are non-casino, then definitely there are hundreds of different variances or instruments that can be leveraged within the casual games. Put casino aside. I think there's a definite parallel if we're building a casual game. Is there a relevance for a VIP? Can we basically learn? Can we basically learn from what has been done already in the casino environment and replicate it into casual games? Well, the answer for the VIP question, in my eyes, is definitely yes.
Yeah, I think we need to see what's the rationale behind the VIP program. And part of it, of course, is the benefits that you give players, and part of it is, as you said, is the status, right? Now, that status translates in a very different way into different games. Not even different industries, just different games. And social casinos, they're very unique. Their monetization engine is tied into the fantasy. The fantasy of a social casino player is that I'm a gambler. I'm spending money and I don't win all of it. That's the fantasy of the player, and that's also the monetization engine. That's why it's making so much money, because my fantasy is to give the casino the money or the virtual money, and the status there is the status game in the casino is very interesting. The status, I'm not more lucky than you. It's not. This is not a status. I'm not. The only thing that makes VIP players in casino in a higher status is their willingness to spend more. And that's a status game that is unique to to casino in a sense. Now, if it's a puzzle, if I would build a VIP for the puzzle, and I agree with you, there has to be a VIP program that pertain to those genres. I need to think what a status in how does that status structure work in this world? And if I'm smarter and I get there by being smarter, then it's maybe more challenging to tie it into and so I don't know. I guess when we'll build one, we'll have to crack that one up.
I think you'll see some support for that thesis in the fact that I mean a lot of casual companies will come to social casino companies and saying, we already have all your users, we should cross promote into you and you should pay us $30 an install, which we all kind of roll our eyes at. Because yes, in a lot of cases there is a lot of overlap between the users, but there are plenty of users who play multiple casual games and never spend, have no desire to spend, they just want to do it to pass the time, but they have a high propensity to spend in social casino games. And I think that is, for the phenomenon you're talking about, that is that fantasy of being in the casino rather than just casually passing time.
I'd like to meet those players whose fantasy is just to give money to casinos. That's great. We have come to the end of this discussion right here. Are there any questions at all for these guys? I see one.
My question is, in destination land-based casino resorts, they provide a really rich environment to transfer a secondary currency in the VIP loop, if you will, and that is the awareness and demonstration of VIP benefits to others. So whether that's having exclusive access or early access to a nightclub line, or out of the corner of your eye you can see that there's a discrete entrance for the VIP check-in at the villas, there's the currency that's conferred is to the aspiring VIPs of what benefits may lay in their future, and then also an opportunity for the established VIPs to sort of luxuriate in their benefits demonstrably in front of others. Now, in the sort of two-dimensional format that we trade in, what ways or what mechanics do you see as either in place now or potentially worthy of exploration in the future that can provide that sort of secondary VIP currency to players at both ends of the spectrum?
How are you creating those unique touch points?
You're from PlayStudios, right? So you're not only operating in the two-dimensional. So I guess one thing we would all like to do is have those kind of opportunities. But in the two-dimensional, maybe not to the extent that Pop Slots is building a virtual casino, have something of a virtual casino, give the consumer the rewards they want within the environment that you're providing them. So
just playing back to some of the points that you mentioned, this microphone is so much better than mine.
I chose it.
You're seated correctly.
Yay.
There's a couple things I can learn. So in terms of canvassing some of the benefits of the loyalty programs, the higher tiers being canvassed to slightly lower tiers, you do see a lot of this being done in certain gaming environments, in certain gaming platforms. And I'm saying it from things that I've seen over the past few years. So the reason that I got excited about this question is because the idea to canvas why a player should want to aspire to some of the higher tiers is very simple. We've seen it done on land-based environments before, and we've even seen it done, and this was an example of what we used inside our studio when we were looking at this exact scenario of how do we do it, why do we do it, do we want to do it. So we took a look at a completely non-gaming related, and I'll make this quick. We took a look at a completely non-related scenario. El Al. I don't know how many of you have flown into Israel with our very illustrious and organized flights. Okay, so they experienced about a decade ago, they experienced a drop in business class ticket purchases. People simply stopped buying, and the propensity to consume a business class, it dropped. So they did something neat, and what I'm going to tell you now is so simple, but it really is true. It's a completely legitimate true story. The windows, the little curtains that you have, and I think it's still the same these days, the little curtains that you have that separate the business class area from the coach and from the economy class. What used to happen was in the beginning of every flight, these curtains would be closed straight away. They'd be closed, complete division, separation, isolation. Fantastic. There was an idea to keep the windows, to keep the curtains open for a little bit longer, so that even after takeoff, the guys in economy could take a look and see what the guys in business were receiving. And that little window into what can I have gave a little bit of a fear of missing out, a little bit of FOMO. I hate to see what other people have that I don't have. I want to aspire to have that as well. When am I going to be able to get into that seat and get that napkin, the serviette, the hot towel, the little tray that comes out with a menu? I also want that. So, fly Turkish. So just a little concept of showing off a little bit what you can have, what you can aspire towards. It could be yours. The illusion of the fact that it could be yours goes an incredibly long way. And it's whether you're a flying coach or whether you're in silver or bronze, and you could be getting a whole lot more game benefits, non-casino or casino. Definitely should be shown off, should be canvassed, jealousy should be created.
There's also the reverse as well, I'm sure, of feeling like if you don't pay for first class, you'll be stuck back there, and seeing how bad it is in the back.
So both ways are going to...
In that case, the way that the message is communicated is exceptionally important.
So that is the end of our time. Thank you so much for talking to us about this topic. I think it's ever evolving, and we'd like to hear your feedback.
Thanks.